Alright, welcome back. This is a new series I'm going to be starting up. And this is a series that is going to be near and dear to my heart because, fun fact about me, Daredevil is my favorite superhero out of any of them, hands down. And I'm going to be, taking my time with this series because I'm going to be making it to where it's very detailed. I'll tell you right now that the My Hero Academia universe and the Marvel universe is in the same universe for this What If. And, I'm actually going to be changing Deku's parents. So, let's get started. So Deku's parents in this is, his father is Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. And, he's around Deku for about 4 years before he dies. And, Deku, he doesn't really remember his father that much, but, and I'm gonna say, the way Daredevil does die is, I'm gonna say, he's fighting the Kingpin Wilson Fisk in Japan, where Deku was at, and Wilson Fisk ends up getting the better of Daredevil, and he ends up crushing Daredevil's head in, killing him. And, Wilson Fisk is arrested, but he's expedited back to America for trial. And Deku, he saw this happen, it was on TV, all over the news, everything. And, I'm gonna say that nobody really knows that Deku is a Murdoch because, Daredevil chose to keep Deku's name as, his mother's last name, which is, I'm just gonna say for the sake of this, that her maiden name is Midoriya. So, Deku still has the same name. But the difference is, he has dark brown hair. And he has green eyes. And he does have a quirk, but his quirk is a bit different. His quirk is called an ultrasonic quirk, which means he can tell from the vibrations in the air where everything's at. He doesn't even have to see it. He gets a 360 vision. Just from his sound, he can hear people's heart rates, their breathing. He can tell if they're lying to him based off hearing their heartbeats. And, if he listens well enough, he can tell what they're going to do before they do it by hearing the muscle twitches inside of their body. But I'm going to say, he's weak to high-pitched sounds. So that's his compensation. So Deku, he starts elementary school with just his mother. His father's dead, and already Deku's not this bright, happy, cheerful kid anymore. He's a lot more down, and his mother's just breaking down. She can't barely, raise Deku as it is. His mother's always at the church that, Matt Murdock was at, which is a Catholic church in Japan. And Deku, he spends most of his time there. And I'm going to say, the priest there was, someone that Matt Murdock knew personally and gave instructions to teach his son how to defend himself if something were ever to happen to him. So while Deku's growing up, he's studying and he's going to church. But, and Inko, she's going to church just to clear her head, confess to everything, and just help out. Because Inko, she's pretty much close to just becoming a nun at this point. And Deku, he's just angry. He feels abandoned by his father. This Deku is going to have abandonment issues. And he's going to have this deep-seated rage inside of him. And, he's just angry at the world. He feels this sadness that runs so deep in him that he cries just about every night. But it's not just sadness, it's because he's frustrated. He's holding all this emotions in so he's not burdening his mother, and it's just eating him alive inside. It's burning through him. He feels like he can't hold it in for a second longer, for any amount of time anymore. He's just gotta let it out. He feels something just crawling away at his sanity. It's eating at him. Just something inside of him. He just feels an urge, so what's he do? He hits something. He hits the walls as much as he can. He breaks his desk. He does whatever he can to let that emotion out. And the priest, he sees this and he's like, yo, hold on a minute here. I understand you're angry. I understand you're hurting. I understand you have a whirlwind of emotions. But you have to learn to control it. And Deku tells him, I just couldn't hold it in anymore. I couldn't hold it in for a minute longer, for a second longer. I just couldn't. And he's like, there was something your father always used to do when, he needed to let out his anger, but didn't want to hurt anybody doing it. And Deku asked him, what's that? And Deku tells him he'd scream. He would scream at the top of his lungs just as hard as he could, pouring all of his emotions into his body. And the priest tells Deku, anger is like a poison. It's not something that can be kept inside. It's something you've got to let out. And don't ever let your anger control you, because if you're a slave to your anger, that's just going to burn out your mind, and where your mind goes, your body is going to follow. You cannot let your anger take control. And so every day, after practice, and Deku's just in the middle of the night, just feeling this intense anger, he'd just go outside and he'd scream. And Bakugo, he still bullies Deku a lot. And the only reason why Deku doesn't really fight back against Bakugo is because his mother's told him, don't cause any trouble at school for her, please. He's just like, please. And the priest told him, look, it's true you're probably gonna get bullied, but don't fight at school. Remember, you're going to have all the opportunities to let it out once you get here. After school, every day, just come here. And Deku's like, okay. And Deku's like, okay. And so, all throughout elementary school, Deku, he just gets bullied by Bako and the other kids, and they see, Deku not fighting back as a sign of weakness. But really, it's just Deku just doing as he was asked. And, before Deku heads into middle school, his mother just tells him she's becoming a nun at the church, and she's going to be going to live there. And, she's telling Deku that she's going to be leaving Japan for a while because she's going to be going overseas to become a nun She just can't keep living in Japan. And Deku's like, okay, well, am I moving too? And she tells Deku, no, I can't take you with me. And he's really upset by this. He's just like, why? Why can't you take me with you? She's just like, you remind me too much of your father. I can't take you with me. I can't handle the stress, the breakdowns. I can't take it anymore. And I already know you're set on a path to become a hero and you're just going to end up dead like your father. I will not be a part of that. I cannot support you on that. And I will not allow that. And she says, that's why I'm leaving you here. The church has agreed to take you in. That's it. I'm gone. And she leaves that night. And Deku's just angry. He's upset. He's crying out his eyes. He's feeling even more abandoned now. Years later, after his father's dead, his mother just abandons him. He's feeling that anger. He's feeling the rage. And all he can do is just scream it out. And having the tears rolling down his face. And the only one there to comfort him is the priest. And the priest knows he can't look after Deku properly. He can't just house him here and raise him as a church boy. Deku's got something inside of him that just won't let him live a quiet life. He knew Matt Murdock too well to know that his son is gonna have the same devil inside of him that his father had. And while Deku's at his last day of elementary school, the priest makes a call. And he calls one of DareDevil's old friends and associates. He calls Foggy Nelson and asks Foggy if he could take in Matt's kid, Deku. And Foggy's just like, I was actually about to come and see him, see how he looked like his father or anything. And he tells him, I am moving to Japan because I am starting up my own law firm in Japan now, so I have the licenses and everything, passed all the tests. So yeah, I'll take him in. And, Foggy, he gets over there to Japan, and I'm gonna say he's quick because he was already at the airport because, and Deku, he's training his ass off. Foggy gets there late at night, but Deku's out for the summer anyway, so he's just up doing boxing lessons with, an old boxing coach that comes by the gym every day to train Deku. So Foggy gets there and he looks at Deku and he sees the spitting image of Matt Murdock in that kid. He's like, man, if Matt could have seen him, he would have just thought to himself, wow, looks so much like him. And, he walks up to Deku and he asks, by any chance are you Matt Murdock's kid? And Deku asks him, how do you know my father? And Foggy's like, I went to college with him. I was his lawyers. We were partners. And Deku's just like, okay. That's when the priest comes up and tells Deku Foggy's gonna be taking him in now. And Deku just can't take it anymore. He's like, what? You're abandoning me too? And Foggy, when he hears that, he realizes just how similar this kid is to his father. And he just can't take it anymore. He hugs Deku so much, and Foggy's like, no, he's not abandoning you. He just can't take care of you properly. I can. Please, I failed your father. I don't want to fail you. So please, let me raise you. Let me do this favor to your dad. Deku actually agrees. He's like, okay. And, Foggy basically looks Deku right in the eyes, and he can see, a kid Deku just in tears after being embraced like that after so long. And Foggy's like, no matter what, I won't give up on you, and I won't abandon you. I promise you on that. He's like, whatever you want to become in life, I will stand behind you and I will support you. Through thick and thin, I got you. And Deku, he's just crying even harder now. He hugs Foggy, and Foggy gives this kid a really big hug. Like, he's going to be there and be the rock that he was for Matt Murdock. And so Deku, Foggy notices that his name is actually Izuku Midoriya, and he asks that, and Deku's like, it was my mother's maiden name. Dad didn't want me having the Murdock last name. And Foggy's like, that sounds like him. And, Foggy just straight up asks him, you have a quirk? And Deku's like, yeah, I do. It's called an ultrasonic quirk. And he's like, huh. He's like, well, tell me about it. Deku tells him about it. He's like, it sounds like he just got Matt's hearing and all his senses, but you still have your eyesight. Which is good. That'll immediately make you stronger than, your dad ever was. But you're gonna have to train just as hard as your dad did. And he's just like, okay, so what's that mean? And Foggy, he's like, after your dad died, did you ever meet this old blind guy? And Deku's just like, yeah, he always carried a stick around, right? And Foggy's like, yeah, kind of on the nose with it, but yeah. And, Foggy's like, I'm gonna have him train you. I gotta warn you. He's gonna be extremely tough on you. He was actually wanting to take you in himself when your dad died, but your mother wouldn't allow it. She said she wouldn't allow you to become like your dad. And Deku's just like, yeah, well, she kind of just gave up on me. And Foggy's just like, I understand that. And so they call Stick over, and Stick, he's like, if I'm training the boy, he's coming with me. And Foggy's like, no, if you're gonna train him, you're training him here. Foggy's like, look, I got good money. I have this state-of-the-art house built. can build you guys the training, the equipment you need to get him to Matt's level. He's like, and, Stick's just like, fine. I promise you I can get him any close to Maddie's level. It was all going to depend on this kid. And Deku looks at him and he's like, I'm not looking to be at the level of DareDevil. I'm looking to surpass him. And Stick's like, alright, well, let's start. And I'm gonna say, high school, middle school, it's all basically been the same for Deku, basically. Except he's a lot more confident, but he doesn't really do shit. So, middle school is pretty much just the same for him. And now we get to the part where, the sludge villain is supposed to happen, but Deku lives the opposite way, so he does not go underneath that bridge, so the sludge villain doesn't attack Deku. But it does attack Bakugo still. And, All Might comes and rescues Bakugo, and Bakugo's just like, what? He's dumbstruck. He can't believe he was just saved by the number one hero. And, but All Might, he really doesn't see the same thing in Bakugo that he saw in Deku and Canon, so he chooses just to tell Bakugo, alright, see ya. And bounce out of there. And this time the sludge villain does not escape. Like, that just doesn't happen. So, Deku, he's just like, alright. He gets home. Foggy asks him how his day went. He sees that Deku's journals got roughed up. He's like, what happened? He's like, Bakugo again. And Foggy's just like, is that kid ever gonna learn? And Deku's like, well, I don't fight him off. I just tell him off. Teachers don't really do nothing to him because they see so much promise in him. They don't want to ruin his record by giving him a mark. And Foggy tells him, okay, how about this? Entrance exam is coming up in 10 months, right? For UA? The school you want to go to? And Deku's like, yeah. What about it? He's like, for those 10 months, you're going to be working with Stick, but also somebody else. And he's like, look, she's a lot more deadly than Stick. And her and your dad used to have something, but she settled down with somebody else. And, she does have a daughter, but she's wanting Stick to train her daughter, but Stick has said he's training you. So I compromised with them and said that if she helps train you, that Stick will help train her daughter. So that means you two are having 10 months together under a Stick and Electra boot camp. And Deku's just like, Electra? You mean the assassin Electra? Oh, he's like, ex-assassin? But yeah, pretty much. And Deku's just like, okay. And, Foggy's like, or we could get you in by recommendation. And Deku's just like, what do you mean? He's like, your dad had superhero friends, They can vouch for you to get into UA. You know that, right? And Deku's like, yeah, but I want to get into my own merit. I don't need somebody else sending me through the program. And he's like, that's what I thought. So Electra and Stick boot camp it is. He's like, I'm going to tell them you said no, so you won't be able to change your mind later. And Deku's like, works for me. He's calling Foggy dad because to him, Foggy is his dad. Foggy's been taking care of him ever since he was like 6 years old. So, Foggy's watched Deku grow and he's really proud of him. Plus, Stick isn't what he used to be, so having Electra come in is really going to teach Deku, how tough the world can be. And Electra, she gets there pretty quickly, because, she is living in Japan, and her daughter is wanting to go to UA. And I must say, Electra's daughter's name, I must say, her daughter's name is Tomoko. Because, Electra did marry a Japanese guy who is also a pro hero. But, that's going to be revealed a bit later on. So, look forward to that. But, Deku meets Tomoko and Elektra. And Elektra's just looking at Deku. She sees he's got some good muscle for his age. Because Deku answers the door in just his muscle shirt and his shorts. And he's ready to go. And he's just like, "Hi, how are you? Please come in." Elektra comes in, she sees Foggy, and Foggy warns her, "Go too far, you're going to jail." And Elektra's like, I know, but do you want him to be strong, or do you want him to be just like Matt?" And Foggy's like, "Don't you ever fucking speak of Matt again. You make him strong, but you don't cross the line, and you don't talk about his father. That's the rules, that's the condition, and you're gonna follow it." And Elektra's like, "Yes, sir, Mr. District Attorney." And Tomoko's just like, "Who's Matt?" And Elektra tells her, "Don't speak of the name here." And she says, "Why?" And all Elektra just says is DareDevil. And she's just like, "Alright, fine." And, they start training, and Elektra is already way more brutal with Deku. And, he sees that Tomoko, she's already, way better than him in hand-to-hand combat. But where Deku has her beat is weapons training with the Eskrima sticks. So they decide to divide and conquer. Deku's already got pretty used to his quirk at this point. He can hear it, but if someone's fast enough before his reflexes can even act upon what he's hearing, it's not going to do him much. So he spends the majority of the 10 months getting used to Elektra, getting used to her speed, her movements, and it is not easy. But Deku is increasing leaps and bounds at this point. He's no DareDevil, but he's getting there. And Elektra, she's satisfied at the end of the 10 months about the training that him and Tomoko got to do. And at this point, Deku and Tomoko, they're really good friends. They're really good friends at this point. And, they say, "Alright, but let's see who can get the higher score in the entrance exams." And Deku's like, "Well, it's gonna be me." Tomoko's like, "I don't think so." And, just to go ahead and explain their relationship, no, it will not be a romantic relationship. This is they think of each other as brother and sister. So, just consider that. And, Deku, people would think that having, this many people in his life would, temper him and show him compassion. But no, it doesn't. Even though Foggy does treat Deku well, Foggy's not always around. His job does require him to be out most of the time, so Deku does still spend most of the time alone, and he still does have abandonment issues. He still feels that rage every day, and he still just screams every night. And Stick is not the warmest person either, ever, however warm he was to DareDevil, he's not like that to Deku. He's a lot colder. And Elektra is way more brutal on Deku this time than she ever was on DareDevil. Because the only reason that they were any type of soft to DareDevil is because they had feelings for him. Stick thought it was DareDevil as his own son. And Elektra, she was romantically involved with DareDevil. That's not the case for Deku. So Deku, he still deals with all that, but at least he has a friend now. But it's still not changing much. And, Foggy's like, he says, Izuku, you want a haircut before entrance exams tomorrow? And, he's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. They shave the sides of his hair, give him a fade, and they trim up the top of his hair. Deku, he's ready. He's packing up his workout gear, but, Foggy's like, hold up. Instead of just wearing all the workout gear for, the actual part of the exam, he's like, wear this. And what it is it's, pretty much a long sleeve, skin tight shirt that's dry fit that has the double D on the chest. And basically just like black sweatpants. He's just like, that way everyone knows who you're gonna be. Because Deku's already made it clear he's gonna be taking up the DareDevil mantle. Like, he does not care. He's like, if anyone even thinks about touching it, I'm gonna beat the shit out of them. Foggy's like, fair enough. So, entrance exam time. Deku, he's walking with Tomoko, and they're getting over there, and Deku sees this girl, she's kind of lost in her own headspace. She's just like murmuring to herself, like stressing. Deku's just like, he walks over there too, he's like, hey, you okay? You need directions or anything? And she's like, oh, no, I'm just worried about the entrance exams. And Deku's like, oh, you're trying to go to, UA too? And Uraraka's like, yeah. And so, Deku tells her, well, good luck, and just a little bit of advice, don't stress it too much. You stress out too much, you're guaranteeing yourself to fail. Just take a breath, you're going to do what you're going to do, accept it, move on. She's like, thanks. She accompanies Deku, and Tomoko's just like, ugh. She's kind of annoyed at this because Uraraka's asking way too many questions and is like way too peppy. And Tomoko's personality is, she's a very brooding person, kind of like her mother. She is exactly like Electra. Honestly, it's like she's an Electra clone. Only difference is she has blonde hair. So people do think she's foreign, but she's not. Well, not fully. And so Uraraka, she notices Deku's hair and she's like, so are you foreign exchange or what? And Deku's like, oh no, I'm Japanese. I just mixed. And she's just like, oh, okay. And she looks at Tomoko and Tomoko can tell she's saying same question to her, and she's like, no, I'm mixed too. Japanese. And Uraraka's like, okay, just checking. Bako, he's already there, but he sees Deku walking with two girls. And he's just like, who the fuck does this motherfucker think he is? Walking up to entrance exam at UA with two girls. Who in the fuck? And, Bako, he walks up to Deku, he's like, hey, fucking loser. The fuck you think you're doing with these two hot ass women? And Deku's just like, who are you talking to? The only loser I see is the man who's going off, spouting off nonsense. He don't even know what he's talking about and butting into other people's business. This ain't concern you. Butt out. And Foggy was like, oh, I guess you actually grew a backbone over the few months that we've been gone. And Deku's telling him, look, you want to start something, you're just going to get kicked out. And I'm not getting kicked out with you because you're acting like a fool. He's like, calm yourself. If you can't hold it in, then, just think about all the robots you get to hit. But as for me, I got time to deal with you. And Tomoko's just like, dude, you are way too loud and annoying. No girl's gonna want that. And Uraraka, she's just kind of laughing and snickering at it. She doesn't really say anything. And everybody's watching the whole commotion, and Ida, he's just like, hey, what are you guys doing, causing this big commotion and shit? He's like, why are you guys distracting? If you guys aren't gonna take this seriously, then go home. And Deku's just like, what are you saying? Me causing a commotion? You should be telling that to him. I'm the victim here. This dude just comes at me for no apparent reason. And you're saying it's both of us? Dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? And Ida kind of embarrassed now because everybody knows that's true. So Ida, he's just like, whatever. And, they turn around, they take the exam. Deku passes. Easy. Now it's, Tomoko, she passes. Uraraka, she meets up with him and she's like, kind of concerned about how she did. And Deku's just like, look, you did what you did. Let's go on with this part. He's like, you could still make the entrance exam, off these points alone right here. As long as you do well. And, Tomoko, she's just like, remember, we're having a contest. And Deku's like, yeah, I remember I'm gonna win. And, they're pushing their way up to the front of the line. And, they're up there, they're ready. And this is the first time, that Ida, he's going up there to Deku to kind of apologize to him. And, Deku, he turns around and meet him and he's like, can I help you? He's like, yeah, I'm just want to apologize to you, man. I didn't really get a good grasp of the situation. And I'm sorry I said those things. But either, he happens to look down at Deku's chest and he sees the double D's in the red and he's just like, you a fan of DareDevil or something? Deku says, hey, that's none of your business right now. Good luck to you on this part of the exam, but I need to focus. And Ida's like, oh, sure, whatever. Deku turns around and, Tomoko, she's just snickering. She's also in red, but she's kind of sporting one of Elektra's older outfits. She's got on the black leather pants with, the red top on. Everybody knows who Tomoko is already. Everybody knows that's Elektra's daughter. She's already set up to become the next Elektra. And people just like, yo, Tomoko is going to be the next Elektra. Because they're already talking about like how she's going to be a great heroine and all that. Uraraka, she's just like, wow, I guess she's really well known already. Nobody really knows who Deku is though. Because of the last name, Midoriya. If his name would have been Murdoch, everyone would have been talking about, hey, he's going to become the next DareDevil. But nobody really knows. But, to talk about Elektra going around and then someone starts mentioning DareDevil, he's like, DareDevil, who the fuck is DareDevil? And then someone says, he's the guy that got his head crushed by the Kingpin. And that sets Deku off. And Tomoko has to put her hand on Deku's shoulder and it's like, hey, let them talk, show them what you can do. And he gets so pissed, like Deku, he's filled with anger at this point. They open the gates. Deku's a man possessed. He's rushing at the robots before anyone can even really get a hold of what's happening. Deku's already put his fist straight through a robot's circuitry and tore its head off. And everyone is just in shock. Even Tamako, she's just like, what the hell is this brutality right here? And Deku, he's just destroying robots any way he can. Like, he's hurting his own self. Because, he is quirkless and he is hitting metal. Well, not quirkless, but his quirk is not really physically strengthening. But still, Deku is just like tearing into the robots. He just doesn't even care. He's pissed. He's screaming while he's tearing off the robots' limbs and just destroying them. And nobody wants to be near him. Ida's looking over there just like, damn. He's so quiet, but I guess once you get him started, he's a completely different person. And Bakugo, he's just like, where the fuck was this? Who the fuck is this guy? You can't believe that, that's Deku tearing robots apart left and right. But people, they start realizing Deku's movements. Because there's a lot of videos about DareDevil floating around online, how he fought. People notice he's fighting extremely similar to DareDevil. And Ida's just like, he's trying to become the next DareDevil. He's already got that in his head. And Ida, he's thinking that, but he is focused on destroying things. But he knows, he's trying to become the next DareDevil. Okay. And, I'm going to say, up in the spectators part where all the teachers are, say Iron Fist drops in. And Iron Fist, he's looking at Deku. He's just like, found him. And, Nezu's like, who? And he's like, the guy down there in the red shirt and the black pants. The one that's just going crazy on the robot. Him. I want him. I want him in UA. And Nezu's like, well, if he passed the test, then sure. And, Iron Fist tells him, as soon as give me a call. I want to meet him before school starts. I have to know who that kid is. And Nezu's just like, yo, one of the defenders themselves is here looking at this student with promise and excitement. And Nezu asks Iron Fist, what's so special about him? Iron Fist just says, it's the way he fights. And Nezu's just like, huh. And that's when, they send out the 0 pointer. And, Uraraka, she's still trapped. And Deku, he sees this. And he knows he can't fight that giant ass robot. He's just like, but he knows he can save her. He can rush over there, get her out, and try to avoid the attacks before it happens. So Deku, he runs. He's, and Tamako, she's right there with him because she knows time is of the essence. They're together, they do save Uraraka. So they both do get the same amount of, hero points for rescue. And Uraraka, she's thanking them both so much for that. And, Deku, he's just like, oh, that was scary. And, Nezu's just like, okay then. So, Tamako, she heads off to her house and, Deku, he goes back home. To his surprise, Foggy's there. And he's hearing Foggy catching up, he's laughing. He's just like, I wonder why Dad's laughing so much for. He walks in, and Foggy's just like, oh, hey, Izuku. Here's a friend I want you to meet. Her name is Karen Page. She's a reporter from America. You know, America, they're wanting to know who's promising prospects, for future heroes. And, Karen's just like, Foggy's told me all about you. I know who your father was. He was a great man. You just look a lot like him. And Deku's like, well, thank you. But, I'm kind of tired. I'm going to go shower and go to bed. And, Foggy's like, everything alright? And Deku's like, yeah, everything's fine. He goes off to his room and he takes a shower. He hits the bed. That's the end of that day. That's where I'm going to be leaving it off for today. If you guys like this first part, let me know. Comment down below. Give me your thoughts and opinions. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.